this final part of tutorials, you will continue growing in your ability to create parametric models by learning how to think outside the box to create a parametric sketch and then apply that to a complicated model. You will also finally learn a huge secret within Fusion 360 that will change the way many of you design your models. Finally, you will get the basic details of Learnit's first contest. You will learn a ton during the series. So welcome to the Learnit channel, Lesson 12, Part 3, Design Parametric Text. We are excited to start Part 3 of this exciting series of tutorials to make our parametric tire. Now, as promised, we're going to talk about one secret feature within Fusion 360, which hopefully is going to be a game changer in the way that you use parameters and text. So to get started, we're actually going to start with a blank palette. And we're going to learn some fundamentals that relate to design using circles and using parameters. So let's start off with creating two basic parameters. So let's create our parameters and call them outer diameter. And let's just create something. This is a random number. We just like to do 5 inches. And then we'll create another one that is our inner diameter. And let's say 2 inches. So let's quickly create a sketch on our XZ plane. And I'm going to be moving a little bit faster within this tutorial because at this point, each of you have gained a wealth of experience through all the other tutorials presented on the Learnit channel, and we don't need to go super slow or anything like that. So let's create our outer diameter circle here and our inner. Okay, so here are 2 circles. We can move our dimensions off to the side. Now, what if I were to ask you, let's create a circle that is always equally spaced in between our outer and our inner diameters. How would you do that? Give yourself a couple seconds. Think about some solutions that you might utilize in order to create that. One of the first things that comes to mind is to create a circle using math that is in between these 2 dimensions. So we can do that very easily. Let's start off with that, and we'll talk about why we are not going to use this method later on. But let's create a parameter, and we can simply call this the mid diameter. Now let's think about the actual equation that we'll use here. We can simply create our outer diameter minus our inner diameter. We're going to put brackets around that, divided by 2. So we can see that the value is 1.5. So if we take 5 inches minus 1.5, it equals 3.5. And if we take 2 inches plus 1.5, it equals 3.5. So this is great, but this isn't our diameter. This is just the spacing in between them. So to actually make it into a diameter, we need to create some more brackets. So we've got an open and closed bracket, and we're going to add it to our inner diameter. There we go. So now look at, we can just look at our value here, and as we change our outer diameter, let's go 10 inches. Well, now our mid diameter is at 6. So this will automatically update depending on our other 2 diameters. Let's just show you that. There we go. So 7 inches is in between those 2. Now this is very easy. We can just create a circle there, and we're going to press D for dimension, and now type in mid diameter. There we go. And let's just make this into a construction line. So this is great. This is wonderful. This is a very easy way of doing it. And no matter what we change with our outer or inner diameter, this will change correspondingly. Now, here is the thing. What if we don't know the outer and the inner diameter? How are we going to create a formula for the mid diameter? Well, that's when we're going to think a little bit outside the box, and this all relates to the parametric tire, so stick with us. We're going to figure this out together. So let's delete our mid diameter there. Now let's think a little bit simpler. Let's go back to the very simple basics that can help us to do this in a very easy way. And again, this is imagining that we do not know the outer and the inner diameter. I've just created the parameters to be able to explain this. So let's do this. Give yourself a couple seconds. Think about some other solutions that you might come up with to solve this problem. All right, now that we've given you a couple seconds, here is a very simple solution. We're going to create a line. And we want a line that goes directly from our outer diameter to our inner diameter that's exactly in line with our origin. So let's use constraints, because we could just go like this and click, but look at our line might not be right at the midpoint. So I'm going to just show you using a couple of constraints to ensure that our line is always perfect. So let's create a line. I'm just going to click there, and we're going to go on an angle actually. So clearly this is not perfectly in line or vertical to our origin. But all we need to do, click on our horizontal vertical constraint. We're going to select our line first of all. Now our line is perfectly vertical, but it is not constrained to anything. So we can also use horizontal vertical constraints for endpoints. So let's go to our line, select our endpoint, and then click on our origin. Now we have our line perfectly in line with our origin. Let's make it into a construction line. So now, what do all lines have that can help us to solve this problem? All lines and all arcs, anything with a start and an end point, also have a midpoint. So what we can do, let's take our center diameter circle. We're going to select our origin there. And as we move our mouse up, look at what we have. The triangle. What is the triangle? What does it mean? Whenever you see a little symbol like that, you can just go up to your constraints, hover over it, and look what we have. Midpoint. So we can go up to there, select our midpoint. Great. Now what's the problem here? Even though we've clicked on our midpoint, our line is blue. It's not fully constrained. So let's just zoom out here, go back to our parameters, change our outer diameter. And actually, we're not going to use our mid diameter parameter anymore. So let's delete that. Let's change it to 8. And our circle is not constrained. So we have to constrain our circle to that midpoint. So what we can do is actually go to create a point. And we'll run along our line there. We can just select our midpoint like that. Let me show you another way. We'll go create point. And I'm just going to put my point off into space. This is just representing maybe our point is somewhere else on our sketch. That's okay. So now we want to select our point, left click, and look at all the available constraints that we have. The constraints that we can't use are blanked out. So we can actually pick our midpoint now. And as I pick the line, look at where the point goes, right to the midpoint. So now to constrain our circle to that, we can do one of two options. Let me just show you the first option. We'll go to our center diameter circle. I can pick the origin and pick that. Now look at our line is fully constrained. Let's go back to our parameters and let's go 12. Now our mid circle is fully constrained to the midpoint of that line. Perfect. So one other thing we could do is if we just have a circle off into space as well, we can always go coincident there to our point, and it does the exact same thing. So let's turn that into a construction line. Very good. Now the next goal of this exercise is we want to put our text. Now picture this being our tire. We're going to insert text right here. That's going to be perfectly centered with our construction line. So how do we do that? Let's go to create text. And we see that we have two different options right here. We've got standard type and text on path. So standard type, we just create a rectangle. And there we have it. But we want to go to text and create it on a path. What is our path? It's our circle. Let's click. And look at what we have here. We've got our sample text. Let's just say, I'm going to spell learn it all in capitals. There we go. And we have all sorts of different options that we can pick. We've got our height, our typeface, our font, character spacing. We've got our placement as well. So let's, first of all, we don't like this orientation. We want our lettering flipped. So Let's do that. And of course, we don't want it on the inside of our circle. We want it directly on the center of our circle. So let's look at our placement. Well, that doesn't help us either. We can go above the path or below the path. We want it exactly in the middle of the path. So how can we do that? Let's go cancel. Now, to solve this, we have to think outside the box again, and we have to use parameters to do so. So let's create another parameter. And here we're going to create something called our text height. And actually, we're going to have a large text and a small text. So let's go to large text height. And we're just going to call this maybe 1.5 for now. And we're going to add another one called small text height. And let's just call this 1 inch. There we have it. So at this point, we want to make sure that our text is offset half of the text height. So let's just create another circle. We'll turn that into a construction circle as well. And you can see it's not constrained. It is orange. So now we have to create a dimension between those two. And this is simply going to be called our large text height divided by 2. Now what we can do is create our text not on this path, but on our path here. Let's go back to learn it. We're going to go above, flip it, there we go. So now you can see that we need to type in the parameter in our height as well. So let's go large text height. Oh, there we have it. Perfect. So you can see that our text is exactly in line with the circle right here, which is exactly in the middle of our large and small diameters. Let's go OK. Now this is so important for everyone. Check your parameters often. I can't stress it enough, especially when creating a parametric tire or using multiple parameters. Check often. So let's change our outer diameter. Let's go 14. There we go. Learn it is still in the middle. Our inner diameter, let's go to 2. There we go. Let's check a couple others. 10 and 4. Let's change our large text height. Let's go to 1.75. There we go. Let's bring it down here to 1 inch. Excellent. So everything is working very, very well. Now the next thing is we don't want our text right here. If we go to our double click on our text, our alignment, where is our alignment? Well, nobody knows because our alignment has to have a start and an end point to actually specify it. And let's just prove it to you. I'm going to create a spline. We're going to create a text on that path. And let's just go Fusion 360. We can flip it so it's oriented. Let's go above the path. Now alignment works. We can align it to the left. We can align it to center. We can align it to the right. Why? Because it has a start and an end point. Whereas a circle does not. A circle has an unlimited, an infinite amount of points. So how do we make it so that we can control the start and end point of our path? Well, let's delete our text, delete the inside circle. Now, instead of using center diameter circle, we're going to use something that has a start and an end point. And there it says, even in our description, select the start point, end point, and then a point on the arc. So let's pick that. Now, instead of 3-point arc, we're actually going to select a center point arc. And if we hover our mouse, it says first step is place the center point. We'd like it right there. And then our start point. And then our end point. Now, it's important to note at this point that our start and our end point, although we have snapped it to being horizontal to our origin, it's not fully constrained. And I'll prove it. We can move those points. So what do we need to do? We need to constrain the start and the end points. So very easy. Just pick horizontal constraint. Pick our start point, our origin, our end point, our origin. There we go. And we can see the little emblems, the little symbols that show us that we're fully constrained. Now all we have to do is specify the dimension in between. There and there. Our large text height divided by 2. We can turn this into a construction line. Now we can create our text on that arc. There we go. It's quite large right now. That's okay. And make sure to, right now, even though this says place it below the path, remember that we are actually flipped. So sometimes you just have to adjust those. You have to think about what is it actually selecting. Sometimes it selects the opposite side of what you think it does. Well, just flip it. It's okay. It all works out. So we'll learn it. There we go. Now in this instance, our height is a little bit too big. I have to put in our parameter there. So we can align it to the left, align it to the center, align it to the right. And right now it's kind of hard to see because our parameter is a little large for our text height. So let's just go 1/2 inch instead. There we go. Double click our text. Now we can change the alignment. But this is just showing you how to control where our alignment is. Again, the principle, we have a start point and we have an end point. So at this point, we have just discussed the fundamentals for what we're going to use with our tire. So let's close this box and let's bring up our actual parametric tire that all of you have created already. So here we go. We've got our parametric tire that we've already designed. We've proven it. If we haven't watched this tutorial, I encourage you to watch the first and second parts of the tutorial so that you can get to the point that we're at right now. The goal right now is to write or emboss our text to the sidewall of our tire. Now we've got 2 different types of text. We're going to have our large text on the top and bottom, and then we're going to have the specifications of our tire on the left and right. So actually what I would like to do is create another component first. We've got our tire component, which includes our treads and the entire parametric tire, but we'd like to create another component for our actual text. And the reason for that is this. It's because when we add an appearance to our tire, if we've created one body with our text on the side walls of our tire here, it's going to change everything. And then we're going to have to individually change all the faces for the text, which just adds time. So why not create 2 components which are linked together? The one component, in this case our tire, will be rubber or have a rubber appearance. And then our text will have a white paint appearance. It just saves a ton of time with the design process. Also keep in mind that even if we were to spend all that time, adjust all the faces to make them white, well, what happens when we adjust a parameter? Or if we change the text, what's going to happen is the appearance is going to reset. So it's going to go back to its default and it's just going to add time every single time we change the parameter. So we don't want to do that. So let's go back in our timeline all the way to the beginning. Remember this little icon right here means that we've created a component. So let's create another one. And we're going to call this our text. There we go. If we go back to our master assembly, now we've got 2 created components. Perfect. Now let's go to the end of our timeline. We can just hit the fast forward or move to end there. And what I'd like to do just to speed up the processing here is I'd like to go back in time so that none of our treads are active. So we can go back. We could actually select all of them by holding down Shift and right click, and we can go suppress features. That's one way of doing it. Or we can just go back in time. There we go. And actually, I'm going to go back even before our construction plane was created. And at this point, I'd like to create the text. It just will speed up with the processing so that every time we change the text, it won't update everything with our treads as well. So now let's activate our text. Now here's what we were talking about before with what happens if we don't know the outer and the inner diameters. Well, in this instance, we do know the outer and the inner diameters. We can just select it and there's our diameter right there, and our inner, perfect, is 21. Yes, we can just select it, but remember with a parametric tire, those are always going to be changing. We don't want to have to measure it every single time. So first and foremost, what we're going to do is we're going to construct an offset plane, and we're going to grab that XZ plane, bring this off to the side, and again, we want to make this a parametric plane. So we're going to go minus tire width divided by 2, and that goes perfectly in line with the side of our tire. But now we're just going to add, and actually this is a negative value, so we have to go minus, and we're going to go minus 2 inches. There we go. So now we can put our sketch on this plane. So let's create a sketch. There we go. Now we need to project those diameters to our drawing. So how do we do it? P for project. We can also find that in the Create Project menu right here. And there it is. And we're going to project this circle and this circle right there. Amazing. So now let's finish our sketch. We're going to hide our tire. And this is what we're talking about, that we don't know the diameters. So if we go to our parameters here and change our tire parameters, let's go 21. Look at what will happen with our sketch. It will automatically update. Aspect ratio, let's go to 75. There we go. And now this is where we use that skill that we just discussed to create the mid circle and the offset for our letter height. Now we actually have to create our parameters because we haven't created them within this particular file. Let's do that real quick. So we've got our parameters, and now we can just do the exact same thing that we have done at the beginning of this tutorial. So I'm going to create a circle, call it construction. We could actually make all these construction if we want. It really doesn't matter. Let's do that. So now we don't have to be selecting any closed features, which will turn up in blue. Again, these are closed, so that just saves us a little bit of trouble with our eyes. Great. Now we can create that line in between. Again, I'll just make it the hard way so that we can use our constraints to fully constrain it. 1, 2, 3. Create ourselves a point off into space. Click on that. Midpoint to our line, and then coincident there to our midpoint. Now we've got that. We just need to create our arc now. So again, center point arc from there to there. Let's constrain the endpoints to our origin. Let's turn it into a construction line too. And now just create our offset, and we're going to say our large text height divided by 2. Wonderful. So this is going to be our large letters. So let's do that. Create text on a path. Put it at our alignment of being at the center. We're going to say learn it Fusion 360. And our height is going to be our large text height. Our font, I would like to change it to something like Impact. There we go. And I think we are ready to go OK. Let's do that. Now we also want to create another path for our small text height. So let's do that. A 3-point arc, center point arc, there, there, and there. We're going to have to constrain this vertically now. Okay, it looks like it's already constrained. Great, but this point is not. Oh, because it's constrained to that line. That's right. Okay. There we have it. And now this distance between that and the center line is going to be our small text height divided by 2. Excellent. We can turn that into a construction line by pressing X. Now we're going to create on that path, and we're going to type in our parameter sizes. So 21, 350, 75. So let's create a text there. And this is going to be P for passenger. Then we want our width to 50 / our aspect ratio, I think was 75, radial, and then our rim, which was 21, I think. But we're going to be getting into this with the secret very soon. So let's go OK. Let's finish our sketch. And now we've got the principles in place so that we can emboss it to our tire. So let's go to our tire there. We're going to activate our entire assembly up there. So now, instead of picking emboss, we might actually get an alarm here. We can pick our sketch profile and our faces. Let's try that. Oh, it actually worked. So that's not too bad. But the problem with this is that with embossing, it will create one body. So our embossing is just creating one body right now, which is not good. We want to keep it separate so that we can add an appearance both to our text and to our tire, which will always keep that specific appearance. So instead of going emboss, let's go to extrude, and the shortcut is E. So now we can pick that profile. We can actually pick both profiles. And for our start, we can start at an object. Remember, we've got a curved face right here. If we start at this object, it will conform to the curve of the tire. So now what is the length of our text? Well, we don't want to go crazy here. Let's just go something like 25 thou. How does that look? Maybe we have to go a little bit more. Let's go 50 thou. Great. And you can see that our text actually follows that profile. Now for our operation down here, we don't want to go join. Again, we don't want one body. We want to create new bodies. So let's go OK. If we go to our text now, actually we made a mistake. So our bodies are in our master assembly. So let's go back in time here. And instead of selecting our master assembly, we are going to select our text and do the exact same thing. So extrude, that profile, and now our direction or our start, we can select our object right there, and we can do the exact same thing. Offset of 50 thou. Okay. Okay, we just ran into a little error there, but that's all right. So we're going to go back, and instead of, our offset, we don't want to do our offset. This is going to be 0. Our distance is going to be 50 thou. Perfect. And new body. Okay. So under our text here, we're going to have all of the different bodies. These are the individual bodies for our text. So now let's activate our master assembly. And this is what we mean when we add appearances. So we can just go to A for appearances. Right now, everything is steel satin. So we're going to type in rubber, and we can go weathered and just drag and drop it right into our original appearance. Let's go close. So now everything is rubber. Now for our text, we can just select our text, press A. Now look at this. We've got steel satin there. So we're going to type in white. And we can find, I don't know, silicone. Let's do that. Oh, now we're messing up here. So let's go A. We're just going to delete that. Delete our steel satin. Oh, we can't delete that. Okay, that's all right. So we're going to type in white again. And we're going to find that silicone. There we go. And we're going to just drag and drop right into our text component. And we're going to remove that. Perfect. And now what we can do is actually drag and drop the rubber over the steel. So in our design, we only have rubber and white. And again, something is messing up on us here. So perfect. There we go. We're just going to drag that white into the text. And we have everything is looking great. So one thing that we need to do is change the small. I don't think we've updated or inputted the correct size for the small text. Yeah, there's our height right there. So let's put in our parameter, small text height. Excellent. Finish sketch. This is going to update everything. And now let's test our parameters. So We're going to go to our large text height. Let's go 2 inches. Amazing. And our small text height, 1.5. Okay, let's go over to, I don't know, 2.5, just for fun. Okay, great. So I'm going to put this back down to 1.5 there. And this is the wonderful thing about parameters, is that we can just bring our body or component or assembly off to the side, change our parameters, see what updates with everything. It looks really, really good. Now, for the next aspect, you have reached the secret within Fusion 360, and this is what you are going to learn, and it is called Parametric Text. So Parametric Text is an absolutely incredible feature that's hidden away in Fusion, and we're going to show you how to activate it right now. It's free, it's a plugin, so let's do it. Let's go OK. Now we're going to go over to Utilities, and we're going to go to Add-ins. And let's go to the Fusion 360 App Store. So here we're going to search for apps and just type in text. And look at what we have. Option 3, Parametric Text. It's available for Mac and Windows. I encourage you to read the description about the version. It's got different pages that you can look at as well that teaches you specifics, how to reference different things. But we're going to get into this in the tutorial as well. It's got excellent reviews. Thank you, Thomas A., for making this available to us. So if you have Mac or if you have Windows, download it. You can just select Windows if you'd like, download it, and install it. Once you install it, you should be able to find it right here. Under Add-ins, you can go Scripts and Add-ins. Under Add-ins, you should see Parametric Text and select Run on Startup. Once you've done that, you might have to exit out of Fusion and enter back into it. But now when we go to Solid and we go to Modify, you should see Change Text Parameters right there. So let's dive into this amazing secret with Fusion. So first of all, let's bring our part off to the side. We're going to hide the tire. We're just going to keep our sketch up, and let's hide our bodies as well. We just want to see the text in our sketch. Now go to Modify, Change Text Parameters. Now this looks a little bit complicated, and it is moderately complicated, so we're going to have to work with it, but you can do amazing different things. You can change version, parameter values, parameter comments. You can even add dates to it, which will automatically update the dates. But let's start off with the simple thing, which is to click on right here, no selections. We can add one, we can delete them. But for our first, it's saying that nothing has been selected. So let's just move on over. I'll make this a little bit bigger for everyone. And we're going to actually click on our text. Now it says it's linking to Sketch 1. And we can put whatever we want in here. We can say, hello. Enter, and it will update everything on our tire as well. There we go, hello. Now, just to save us from having to process it every single time, let's just go back in time before our extrude, which extrudes it to the tire. So we're just focusing on our sketch. Let's go back to change text parameters. So we can change this to whatever we want. Let's go back to Fusion 360, enter. It will automatically change that to Fusion 360. So let's do it one more time. Change text parameters, and we'll put it just as we'd like it here for this tutorial. Learn it, Fusion, and you know what? I'll just say F360. Enter. Perfect. So now the next part of our parametric text is this right here. Obviously, we don't want to go back every single time into our text parameters and say we change the width of our tire, or if we change the rim, or if we change the aspect ratio. We want that to do it all automatically. We already have parameters for those things: rim diameter, tire width, aspect ratio. So this is super important at this point. I can't stress it enough. If we're going to start using text parameters, we have to make sure that our spelling and our cases, if they're uppercase or lowercase, is correctly spelled. So let's remember rim diameter, tire width, aspect ratio. The words are divided by capitals. Perfect. Let's go OK. Let's go back to our text parameters here, and we're going to create another row, another selection. For this, we're going to select that part of the sketch. Now they're both defined as sketch 1 because both of them are created within sketch 1. But if you would like to make it more simple, you could always create sketch 1 having the large letters and sketch 2 creating another sketch with the small letters. But I have done it all within one sketch because I like having a very short timeline if possible. So if you look at the reference guide here, it might be a little bit complicated. Maybe I should have another tutorial at some future point to discuss these in detail. But you can reference components, you can reference sketches, dates, even files and versions, which is just absolutely amazing that it can tie into that. And then you can create parameters, parameter value, expressions, units, comments as well. And here are some examples. So what we're going to do is we're going to create this based on our parameters that we've created above. So let's type in our first letter, which is a P. It will be a capital P because that refers to a passenger vehicle tire. And now we are going to create our brackets. So this is a curly bracket, and we're going to use curly brackets for our coding. So the first thing we need to put in is the actual name of our parameter, what we've called it. So we're going to type in tire width, and we need to spell this exactly as we have in our parameter. It won't bring up a shortcut so we can select it. We have to spell it correctly. And then we're going to type dot value colon dot 0 lowercase f close curly bracket. Let's just start off with that and press OK. So it's actually a 350 millimeter tire width, and we can prove that right here, tire width. Let's change it. Let's go to 300 and see if our text automatically updates. Oh, once we hit enter, we have to press OK for the text parameter to update. Great, there it is. So let's go back to our text parameters. Now we have to add the second aspect, which is a /. Now we're going to do another open curly bracket, and we're going to say aspect ratio. Again, paying attention to its case sensitivity. Dot value colon dot 0f close curly bracket, enter, and there we have it. Width and our aspect ratio. Let's go back to our parameters. Let's change our aspect ratio to 65 and let's see if it updates. Remember, we press enter within our parameter here. Our sketch will change, but not yet with our text. We have to go OK, and then it will update. So now let's go back to our text parameter, and we're going to do our last set of values. So we're going to type R for it being a radial tire, open curly bracket, rim diameter dot value colon dot 0f close curly bracket, enter, and there we have it. So this will always update based on our parameters that we have here, and we can show you with the rim diameter. Let's go to 19, enter, OK, and it updates in our sketch. So now let's see it in full action here. Let's go to the end of our timeline. It has to do all sorts of calculations here. So that just took a really long time, actually probably a minute and a half. So again, when we're making all these adjustments, it's good to right click, and we could actually suppress those features as well. So I'm going to turn on the tire. We can just see here, we can turn on our bodies as well, that everything updates with our bodies. But just for the sake of working with our model at this point, I am going to select everything from our construction plane to the end, which is all referencing our treads. Right click, suppress features. It gets rid of that. So we're just focusing on our parametric tire and our parametric text right now. We're going to go back with our timeline. so that we're in the timeline area where we're actually working with our text. And at this point, we can activate our text. So we're right there. Amazing. Let's hide our sketch right now. So look at this. Everything is looking amazing. Now, all we have to do is create a circular pattern. For our object type, we can actually go features. We can pick our extrude right here, and our axis is going to be our y-axis. And we don't want a quantity of 3, we only want a quantity of 2, which is 180 degrees opposite of each other, and go OK. So now let's activate everything, and let's just have some fun with some parameter changes. So I'll bring the tire over there, and let's change our rim diameter to 21. Again, we have to press OK or enter. OK, and it will now update. Give it a couple seconds, because it also has to calculate a lot, and then it has to extrude, has to do all of that. So let it calculate, and look at our tire, and there we have it. Those will update automatically. So say we want to adjust several different parameters at the same time. If we were to change our rim diameter, then we'd have to wait. And then we change our tire width, and then we'd have to wait for it to process. And then our aspect ratio, wait for it to process. So if we don't want to do that, we can just deselect automatic update here. And now we can change several at the same time. So 19, 350, 75, and we can apply. Yes. And now it will process all of that in one shot. There we go. Press OK. And now it will also process our text. Amazing. So it does that all in one shot. So now what we can do is unsuppress our tread. And actually we need to go to the end there. Perfect. And now we can unsuppress the features. Well, would you look at that? That all took about maybe 45 seconds to process on my computer. I hope it's a lot faster on your computer. But anyways, this is processing a lot of information. So you have learned a huge secret of Fusion 360, that of doing parametric text. Use your imagination of how you might be able to use this in the future. But this is an incredible feature that can help speed up your processes, and that not a lot of people know that it actually exists or even how to use. But now you do, because you've learned it on the Learn It channel. So as promised, we'd like to talk about the Learn It channel's first contest. What is this contest? Well, we'd like to encourage all of our subscribers, if you haven't done so already, create the parametric tire, create your own unique tread pattern. Don't do as I have done. This will be your own tread pattern, which will utilize parameters and will change automatically based on your tire parameters. And you will also create your text, a unique type of text on the side that will also utilize text parameters. I will put a link down in the description below where I'd like you to email me your file, your Fusion 360 file. And that will include all the information so that I will be able to check it out. And we are going to pick the winner based on, have you followed the direction? Does your model break, or do your parameters break at any point? What is the nature of your tread design? Is it a simple design like I have done that actually works? Or is it a complicated design that doesn't work? Well, we'd much rather have you select a simple design for your tread pattern that actually works. And this all shows or demonstrates that you have an understanding of parameters. So this contest will be going to the end of October. You have just a little over a month to create your designs, use your imagination, create something amazing. Send it to me. The way that you export your file is go up to the top left here to File, and we are going to export. So you export that into an email onto your desktop and send it in an email that we have provided, and do so before the end of October. You have quite some time to do this. We will pick the best designs. We will show them in a future upcoming tutorial. I will include your name if you'd like your name, or just the initials, a link to your YouTube channel if you have one, and use that design as the thumbnail for that specific tutorial. For the full details of this contest, please visit our Facebook page, and there we will have all of the nitty-gritty. You can also contact us if you'd like, if you have any questions or if you need any help. We'd be happy to do our best. Although we might not be able to respond to everyone, we'd like you to be successful with this project. So we hope that you have learned a ton with this set of tutorials. If you have done all 3 of them, you have learned an incredible amount when it comes to parameters, design, text, and you'll be able to utilize this with future designs, not just with tires. This is just one type of design that we've discussed, but understanding the principles, going through the tutorials will help you be successful in future designs. So can't wait to see your submissions, and until then, take care and keep learning with the Learn It channel.